Hello everybody, I'm Matt and welcome back to the Fortress of Solitude. Today we're going to be checking out Superman, the Kryptonite Spectrum Issue 2 by W. Maxwell Prince, Martin Morazzo and Chris O'Halloran. The effects of the COBALT Kryptonite take their toll on Superman as the giant-sized Man of Steel rampages through Metropolis, with Atom Smasher trying his best to subdue the out-of-control hero. Luckily, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman and Batman are also there to help out the people of Metropolis, evacuating some of the surrounding buildings, and there's a bit of a funny gag here that runs throughout this entire book about a woman who is upset about her office being destroyed, all because she didn't save her work on the computer, an ever relatable thing I, and I'm sure many other people have had to deal with. Not the destroyed building part, the saving the project or not saving the project in this instance. It's a fun little human moment amongst these literally larger-than-life heroes battling it out amongst the city. Atom Smasher meanwhile tries to calm Superman, knowing on top of the COBALT Kryptonite, Superman was hit by a red Kryptonite missile fired by Lex Luthor, hence why he's on an angry rampage. Superman hits Atom Smasher away, screaming how the people of Earth deserve to die thanks to the climate crisis and never-ending catastrophes that wreak havoc upon themselves. As he fights the hero, the villain Chemo slowly makes his way to Metropolis, intent on fighting the Man of Steel as well. I like we're kind of just opening the issue being just thrown straight into it all. It's chaotic and fun, and we basically get a kaiju fight happening, with the only difference here being Superman is one of the kaiju. Sometime earlier in the Fortress of Solitude, Batman tells the growing Superman that he's growing at 4 inches every 25 minutes. Affected by the COBALT Kryptonite radiation, which was so strong it leaked through the lead lining shielding it was in. Superman asks if there's a ceiling to this growth, but Bruce doesn't know, instead showing Superman how the COBALT Kryptonite's molecules are the exact inverse of the speckled Kryptonite, meaning the speckled Kryptonite could theoretically make Superman smaller. Prince is sure to answer a question I'm sure most people have. How does Superman's costume grow with him? And I love the real sci-fi hand-wavy answer. It's made from a molecularly pliable material, woven together thanks to Ma Kent's talented needlework. It's just one of those things that I don't know why people often have a gripe about that, like how his costume is able to not get damaged or can get damaged and when it shouldn't. It's one of those things that's kind of like turn your brain off. You're reading a comic book about a man who flies around in a cape, shoots lasers out of his eyes, specifics like that don't think about too hard. As Batman gets to work with these Superman robots, Superman again grows. This time he doesn't stop though and ends up bursting out of the top of the fortress. Batman orders an evacuation quickly, helping Krypto get free of the falling icy debris. Superman of course is concerned for the new Kryptonite, but the robots are protecting it, excavating it from the debris. He tries to thank Batman for his help, but Bruce tells him that they don't have time for this since his size and body temperature no doubt set off every military's radar on the planet. So they have about 5 minutes until they think he's some angry kaiju. Superman wants to beat them to the punch and take control of the narrative and venture to Metropolis to see Lois, whom he knows will help break the story to the public. God, I love how golden age these plots have been. This idea of Superman having to break his own story about being a kaiju before the military bomb him feels like straight out of a 70s Kurt Swain Superman book. Batman doesn't think that the plan will work since Metropolis will panic seeing a giant Superman descending on them, and besides, Lois broke up with him, so she might not even want to help him. Superman knows that this is a professional matter and he trusts Lois wholeheartedly. Batman doesn't think that Superman's optimism will help him out in this one, asking what happens after Superman tells the people of Metropolis what happened to him. Superman reveals that this is where Batman comes into it, as he wants him to find out a way how to deliver a large dose of the speckled Kryptonite to his system. The dynamic that Batman and Superman have and how well they work together and kind of sort out a plan real quick is just so good. It speaks to their relationship and the relationship we haven't seen within the world of this comic, being this isn't a in-continuity comic, it's an out-of-continuity new world. So already we can kind of glean the fact that, they've been working together for many years, they have a great rapport with each other, and then seeing that in action here is just so cool. There's also a really cool Alice in Wonderland through line through this entire comic, with obviously Clark growing in size, a kryptonite that makes him large, one makes him small. So Prince peppers all of these throughout with quips from Superman and Batman as they both quote Alice in Wonderland. Superman heads off to Metropolis as Batman contacts Wonder Woman, telling her to put together a small team since they may have a big problem on their hands. Over in Metropolis, Linda, an office worker, closes in on finishing up a comprehensive spreadsheet for her boss, Mr. Spiegel, who she knows will be really impressed by her work. Before saving though, she gets up to see what Bob is ranting about at the window, finding a giant-sized Superman looming over their building. Superman explains to the people his predicament, assuring them that everything is okay and a solution is being worked on by his friends. Linda doesn't really care, getting back to her spreadsheet. Something we've seen a little later on doesn't actually end well. The sudden focus on this woman as well is kind of strange as well. Like, why are we getting really invested in this woman and her unsaved spreadsheet? It's funny, don't get me wrong, I really like it, it's a cool gag, but where is this going to go? And it feels like a weird origin story, like a real golden age, silver age villain origin. She loses her spreadsheet and wants to take revenge on Superman for causing her not to save it or something. I'd love if that's where this book is going to go and ends with them, birthing a new villain who wants to take revenge on Superman. Lex meanwhile takes in the side of the giant Superman, angered that he's testing the Kryptonite on himself. Again, like issue 1, Prince has peppered in some nice callbacks to All-Star Superman, this time with Lex making the brain beat brawn quote from that book as he decides what to do about Superman. I'm also noticing more so this issue than the last, but I really love how Marazzo draws Lex Luthor. He's got this gaunt, ghoulish complexion adorned with pale eyes. It's a real creepy Lex, and I really, really like it. I wish more writers would draw that instead of just making him kind of bald and a little bit handsome. Like, I like how he's kind of like the ghoul version of Lex, and, kind of playing up the whole 1940 evil scientist trope that he is born from. Dr. Hamilton suggests deploying chemo to deal with Superman, although he knows the radioactive liquid that makes up the villain is wildly unstable, and if anyone gets close to him or he enters a city, thousands could die from cancer or any number of terminal illnesses. Lex doesn't really seem to care, wanting Chemo and Superman to wreak havoc on the city. Giving the order, Chemo is freed from his containment down in New Mexico and begins the long walk up to Metropolis. Batman, with a little help from Krypto, continues building the cannon to test the speckled Kryptonite on Superman, with a concentrated blast of speckled K radiation that should shrink Clark back to a normal size. Readying the cannon for a test, Batman fires it up, but the barrel explodes, putting the cannon back on the drawing board. I quite like how Prince is deploying Batman in this series. He's actively solving a mystery, but it's not a murder or a crime or anything like that. It's a scientific mystery, something we seldom see Batman do, at least nowadays, and I really find that refreshing. I like that he's not just solving a crime or a murder or, something like that. He's actually solving a mystery that has eluded a lot of people with Superman and the Kryptonite, and I like that they finally are diving into that with Batman and allowing him to put his scientific prowess to the test. Also, the robots helping Batman call him Mr. Batman, which is a little cute. I quite like that. As Batman continues his tests, Lex suits up in his new warsuit, complimenting Dr. Hamilton on his new design. He loads up some special ordnance as Superman talks with Lois and Jimmy. Lois jumps from the helicopter circling Superman into his large hand, demanding to know what he's been up to in the Arctic. It's weird that after what we got last issue with Lois, with her breaking up with Superman, and just the way she was kind of acting and very cold and distant, I feel like there was something there, and I feel like the writer was going to build up to something and we're going to explore that in this issue, but that doesn't actually happen. Lois is barely in this issue, and granted, there are larger, pun intended, things to be dealing with in this issue, but it does feel like that was being set up as something that, okay, we're going to talk about how Lois is acting in this issue, and as well as the breakup and how that, has affected Superman, but that never really comes up. It just is completely absent from this issue, almost like it didn't happen, and it's almost like Prince is just straight up dodging around that stuff, with only the bare mentions of the breakup in this issue. I did have some problems with how Prince was writing Lois. She was very cold and distant in that first issue, so maybe it's for the best that she isn't being written by him in this issue. Before Superman can properly tell her what's going on, Lex appears, throwing a jab at Superman regarding his breakup with Lois. Lex thinks that Superman's body size now matches his ego, wondering what will happen if he adds some red to the COBALT. He fires a red Kryptonite missile at Superman, infecting him with a rock that enrages the hero. I was intrigued to see the effects of the red K and what they would have on Superman, since usually, in Golden Age and Silver Age, it would like mutate him and he'd get an ant head or a lion head or something like that. But here they're going the kind of Smallville modern interpretation of the stuff where it enrages him. There is a good mix with the modern takes and the Golden Age style takes on the Kryptonite so far. So like in Red K's regard, this is a modern take, but we see some of the other stuff, it feels very Golden Age, like the Cobalt Kryptonite growing him in size, or the purple Kryptonite making him hallucinate and messing with his mind and time and how it dilates his mind. I also do really like the red Kryptonite in this issue because it doesn't just make him evil Superman like it usually does. It's an interesting interpretation where the Kryptonite makes him frustrated and angered at mankind, not because of who they are, but because of what they are doing to the planet and how they are kind of destroying the world that was given to them, and he feels it's very selfish of them and they should treat the planet right and they don't deserve the planet that they are on, and that's what makes him angry. He's not just an evil version of Superman. Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Atom Smasher arrive to stop the rampaging Superman. Diana wants to talk to her friend first, but Superman isn't interested in that, citing how humans have ruined their world, so they don't deserve a city like Metropolis. He flicks Wonder Woman away like she's a bothersome fly, stomping through the streets as John tells Atom Smasher he's going to evacuate the people from the buildings, while Smasher takes the fight to Superman. Atom Smasher grows in size to match Superman's size, trying to calm the hero down, but doing so opens him up to an attack, and Superman socks him right in the face, knocking him down hard. Linda, the office worker from before, continues to try and finish her important spreadsheet, but Green Lantern's evacuation of her building puts a stop to that, forcibly putting her and everyone in a protective construct as Batman arrives with the speckled Kryptonite cannon. Time isn't on the hero's side though, as Batman picks up Chemo's body signature on the scanner, meaning they must hurry up and deal with Superman before Chemo can enter a populated area and expose people to lethal doses of radiation. I applaud Prince for taking the time to set the heroes up evacuating the city and having a role in this mission, and actually showing it in Morazzo's art and not just having a throwaway line just to quiet people down who would nitpick that. They've actually built that into the story in the art. Because of that, we actually get to see some proper damage in the fight as well, like Superman burns a building with his heat vision, he pushes Atom Smasher against them, topples them onto him, all that sort of stuff. As Atom Smasher keeps Superman busy, Batman and Wonder Woman set up the cannon, but Batman shares that the cannon, while tested, is still volatile and it might just blow up on them. Wonder Woman takes the chance and fires the cannon at Superman, and the speckled Kryptonite works, shrinking him back down to normal size. There's a bit of hand-wavy sci-fi stuff like before here with the costume, where in shrinking him it also negates the red Kryptonite effects on his system, but it's fine. You know, they'd have to get rid of that at some point anyway, so it's better just to get rid of it here than later on. Superman assures his friends that he's back to normal, and Krypto confirms it by coming up and licking his face, happy to see his owner again. Batman quickly fills Superman in on what is going on the other side of the city and how Chemo is heading their way, having stopped to rip apart the Magan overpass. Superman knows that this is Luthor's doing, and if he comes close to the city, thousands will be infected by Chemo's radiation. Superman speeds off, and Batman gets a really great line here where Wonder Woman asks where he's going, and Batman tells her that Superman is going to take the hit so no one else has to, just like he always does. Superman speeds right through Chemo's head, yanking out some of his tubes on his hand and shoving them back in a small hole he drills into his head with some heat vision. And this is where things get really Golden Age wacky, as Superman then drinks the radioactive liquid that makes up Chemo, defeating the villain by eating him, essentially. Superman weakly returns to his friends on the bridge as Batman knows the speckled Kryptonite in combination with Chemo's liquid body has done something to Superman's alien physiology, as Superman rapidly de-ages and turns back into Superboy, just as Captain Marvel arrives to help out with the fight. This is such a fun way to end the issue, and as I said, totally a Golden Age premise. Like Superman drinking Chemo would be something you'd see on an old comic book cover. You know, those old, kind of clickbaity covers where you'd see like Batman and Superman holding Robin and Jimmy at gunpoint and forcing them to dig their graves. You know, something that's barely covered in the actual content of the book, but it's like that image to sell the comic, and seeing this would be something akin to that. Also, Shazam being called Captain Marvel again is really cool. I know Mark Waid likes to call him the Captain whenever he gets to reference him, but I didn't think they could actually use the Marvel part of the name, being that that's owned by Marvel Comics. Maybe because this is a black label out of continuity book, they can get away with it, and that was just as much a surprise as the actual ending of the book. And as the tease for the next issue implies, Captain Marvel is going to be sticking around again to help out the young Superboy, which will no doubt lead to more Kryptonite-based shenanigans. Superman, the Kryptonite Spectrum issue 2 was another wacky Golden Age fun-filled issue that explored more of these new Kryptonite variants and their effects. Apart from that, it didn't really move the needle on any of the character plots set up in issue 1, like the Lois Lane breakup story, which oddly is all but non-existent in this issue. Still, I really enjoyed how Prince and his team deployed the various heroes and villains throughout this book, and how they factored into Superman testing this new Kryptonite, and how they went about ending the issue was a lot of fun. It's just plain wacky sci-fi fun. I'm going to give this issue an 8 out of 10.